Joined now by lawyer Ambi Sitham.
And joining me to talk about this is Ambi Sitham. Ambi Sitham.
Ambi Sitham.
Ambi Sitham.
Should we do it? Ambi Sitham.
Ambi Sitham. Ambi Sitham.
Well, we're joined now by the lawyer and legal expert Ambi Sitham, who has also worked for Naomi Campbell.
In terms of perjury, in order to prove perjury, you would have to prove that she had the intention to lie and that she then actually lied. And I don't feel that that perjury is relevant here at all, because I don't think that if she's done anything, she's probably accidentally perhaps been inaccurate in terms of her recollection of what actually happened. But that's very, very different to perjury and lying. I understand the heinous charges against Charles Taylor, and I think this is an incredibly important case. But in a way, one could argue it's a double-edged sword. If Naomi Campbell wasn't involved in this case, if her evidence wasn't so crucial to proving the link between blood diamonds and Charles Taylor's war crimes, then perhaps this case wouldn't be getting the attention that it quite rightly deserves.
I mean, the problem is that in the UK, with contract workers, the only rights that they have are those rights which are set out in their contract for services.
Yes.
But because they're not officially termed employees, for example, BMW, in BMW's home country, in Germany, agency workers would have some rights, but here it's only whatever's actually set out in that contract, because they're not employees, they're just workers.
As I understand it, the judge doesn't actually go round there and look at it and see whether it has any adverse effect, do they?
No, he doesn't. But what he does is he looks at the photos and gets, I suppose, there'll be witness statements submitted to the court and evidence as to what the actual waste is. But it's not quite the same as actually being there physically, like the neighbours are, and actually seeing and smelling and, I suppose, being exposed to the sight of it.
If they don't get it sorted out in the next few weeks, they don't go back to the judge to get a consent order saying that they've settled all the terms of the divorce, then we'll probably see that there's a hearing date set for some time in the new year, and this case will go to a full trial.
Ambi Sitham, thank you very much.
I mean, I think it's a case of political correctness gone too far. It was said in a private context. It was not in the use and the context in which it was said was a reference to, from what I understand, she was referring to a jam bottle, and that Gollywog appeared on a jam bottle, as opposed to making a derogatory reference to the tennis player in that sense. So I don't believe that she intended it to be racist at all. I think it was just generally an expression that she clearly obviously uses and has done from childhood.
Ambi, good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
If the confidentiality order is part of the settlement, which I believe it is, then any breach of that confidentiality order will be contempt of court. If there is any kind of concern over the physical or emotional welfare of the children, or any kind of indication that she may not be in a fit or proper state to look after the children and provide them with a safe, loving environment, then obviously that can be used against her. Here, they're saying these are false allegations, therefore we're going to sue in defamation. Obviously, they've sued in America. The law in America is slightly different than it is in the UK. David Beckham is considered to be a public figure in America, and that means that in order for him to sue successfully, he has to prove that the magazine either knew that the allegations were false prior to going to publication, or were reckless in their publication of the allegations. They didn't do a proper fact check.
At least 3,000 people have complained to ITV, apparently. Will that worry the watchdog Ofcom?
No, because at the end of the day, Ofcom's rules haven't actually been breached. Simon Cowell's decision to put the vote to deadlock and actually give it over to the public wasn't actually a breach of the show's rules, so there's not actually a valid complaint there, even though it's obviously riled a lot of people. The fact of the matter is that the public are increasingly interested in every minute detail, and especially salacious details of celebrities' private lives. But then one has to consider whether or not that's correct, that just because you are in the public eye, just because you do have a public profile, does that mean that you give up and relinquish your entire right to privacy? I don't believe you do.
Legally speaking, what are the options open to the BBC today?
I mean, they'll look at whether or not Jonathan's breached his contract and whether or not they can sack him, probably under the grounds of gross misconduct. But I feel they'll enter into certain difficulties with this, because the fact is it wasn't a live broadcast, which means that somebody at the BBC, an executive, actually approved this piece going out. So I think even if they did try and sack him, they would probably face a counterclaim by his lawyers.
Effectively, the court said that she had helped him become the man he was, earning the money that he was, whereas with Paul and Heather, obviously he was already a multi-millionaire and a worldwide icon and legend way before he met her.
The thing is that the face of journalism has effectively changed, and everyone is a would-be investigative journalist nowadays. You know, our desire for news is increasing at such a rapid pace that people are finding out, you know, the latest breaks in news on Twitter and things like that. So I think we are going to see an increase in defamation cases. For example, we've seen things like on Facebook and Twitter, people suing for libel on those kind of social networking sites. So I think we're going to see an increase in, and I think we're going to have to see how journalism changes and how people continue to do these blogs, and whether or not you know, there is a massive case which changes the law and sets a precedent.